Hello and welcome to Punk Rock Academic, the podcast where the rebellious spirit of punk rock meets the halls of higher education. We dive into the stories of those who break the mold, challenge the status quo, and bring the DIY ethos to academia. I'm Alex Yore, and with me as always is Dallas McCulloch, your guide through the intersection of anarchy and academics. Get ready to meet the professors, scholars, and students who are as hardcore about their studies as they are about their music. Let's turn up the volume and tear down the walls of convention. This is Punk Rock Academic. Hello, and welcome once again to Punk Rock Academic. We've had a little gap in programming, but here we are with Episode 5, and this one's a real treat. This time we'll be chatting with Toni LaMantia MS. Now, Toni received her Bachelors in Music Education from SUNY Fredonia, followed by a Master's degree in Educational Psychology and Quantitative Methods from the University of Buffalo. She also holds an advanced certificate in Applied Statistical Methods, also from the University of Buffalo. She's currently employed by Tesla, using her background in education and statistics to lead a team in their Vision AI program. You can also catch her singing and playing saxophone and keys with the Abruptors, a Buffalo, New York-based ska band. The Abruptors are signed to the renowned Asian Man Records and maintain an impressive tour schedule, playing with such legends as Mustard Plug and the Slackers. As if that weren't enough, Toni is also a mother, so we're really grateful she could make the time to talk to us and share her story. Let's get into it.
So, hey, what's up? Toni, how you doing?
Good. How are you guys doing?
Excellent.
Fucking tired. It's 2:30 in the morning in Germany right now, but my boys are asleep and they're not fucking out partying, so that's great. I know where to find them in the morning. So you play in the Abruptors. That's how I know you. And it's it's kind of cool doing this one because we've just been on tour together a fair amount over the last couple months. But I don't know. You're kind of quiet. And I'm usually busy babysitting my dudes who are all fucked up. So it's cool to be able to actually kind of shoot the shit and find out that you're a fucking nerd too.
Yeah, no, I was thinking about that before we hopped on. I was like, I don't feel like we talked a ton on tour. They're like ships passing sometimes, but
strangers in the night. So anyways, but here we are. So you your actual title would be you have a MS would be.
Yes.
Okay, and that is in. Please tell me what it's in.
So it's educational psychology and quantitative methods.
What the fuck does that mean?
So there's kind of a lot to it, but at the root of it, it's all about how do you create a learning environment that is beneficial for students, regardless of any age level, and there's a lot of different courses that went into it, like the sociological impact of education. I also did like psychometric analysis, so how to determine if a test is actually measuring what it's intending to test and things of that nature. But then there's also the research aspect of it. So doing a lot of like qualitative research studies. I know it says quantitative, but there are a lot of qualitative aspects to it as well, like observing in classrooms, taking notes, and basically being able to take all of that information that you collect throughout observation or data collection, doing statistical analysis to it in order to determine outcomes and make connections and things of that nature. So everyone always goes, "What the heck is that?" I said, "What the heck is that?" when I first saw it too, but I find it really interesting. It's a lot of fun.
Cool. So let's start from the get-go here. So you play in the Abruptors, pretty rad ska band, very much more so in the realm of kind of two-tone ska with a lot of kind of like OG ska revival. So it's not like a punk band, so to speak, but you're on Asian Man Records, which is the most fucking DIY punk rock from the get-go label that exists. You're frequently playing with other punk bands quite often. I mean, when Alex and I had seen you last year, you're on tour with the Slackers, who, fucking they Vic from them writes songs for Rancid, for example. Like, so you're pretty fucking punk rock adjacent at the very least. And just from knowing you guys, like as people, like certainly you guys come from within that scene to some extent. So, well, let's start from the beginning. What's your introduction to just music in general?
Yeah, so I started actually playing piano when I was probably about 4. So that was something that I had done pretty much my entire childhood into adulthood, was classical piano. And then obviously like saxophone is something that they tend to, fifth grade, you're like, hey, what instrument am I going to play? My dad was like, you're going to play saxophone. I was like, okay, I'm going to play saxophone. So I really, music was always a part of everything that I did pretty much my entire life. I really got into more ska music as I got, older. In high school, I had friends who were in a ska band. And then in college, started a ska band, and we would go on tour and things like that. But it wasn't until about like high school and my college years that I really got going to shows and in more in that like punk type scene.
So what sort of music were your parents playing at home, or what do you remember like your first, just I don't know, your first memories on listening to music, even just like as a little kid?
Yeah, I mean, my parents were always like they'd have all their friends over. They'd be dancing in the driveway at like midnight. But they were really kind of like Eagles, like classic rock type people. Uh, and as I grew up, they listened to bands like Dave Matthews Band, and I think my first concert was James Taylor at like an outside like type stage at Darien Lake out here in Buffalo.
That's where Warped Tour was. I
Yep.
remember I've been really fucked up there. Yeah.
So I actually never went to Warped Tour, but I did go to James Taylor. So
That's punk as fuck right there. Yeah, that's the cred. So then, do you remember what your first more kind of like punk or ska or alternative, or like when did you start getting into any of that sort of music beyond what your parents were teaching you about?
yeah, so I remember in high school, my friends listened to like Real Big Fish, Streetlight Manifesto, which I think are pretty like they're kind of like the gateway ska bands. I kind of feel like at this age. But my first show was actually when Big D and the Kids Table came to Fredonia, and they played in their little cafeteria area. I guess Big D was doing like a college tour or something like that. And I remember, just having tons of fun, people pushing, and it got rowdy, and they shut it down mid-show. And just kind of like, what did they expect when they booked a ska punk band in their main cafeteria space? I'm not quite sure, but that was actually my first show, my first like ska show.
This was like How It Goes era, or like
I actually couldn't even tell you. I have no
okay.
idea. It was like probably 2009, 2010.
Okay, so a little bit of a late bloomer on that front. Right on. And then like what was that like? How did you wind up going to those? Just you were at the university, like, oh, there's a band playing, let's check it out, sort of thing, or?
Yeah, it was a free show. It was actually right on campus and right across the street from my dorms. So just walked right over. And
Hell yeah. Which one did you have a crush on, Dave McQueen?
did I have a crush on?
I said which one?
I don't know.
The answer is Paul. Paul was the cute one. Anyways, so at what point did you start thinking like, hey, I could fucking play this, or hey, they got a saxophone, I know how to play saxophone, or what was the kind of the connection on that?
Yeah, so Ricky Coates, who currently plays in Keep Flying as a trumpet player, he and I actually went to high school together. And then we ended up going to college together. And so we were like, hey, we could start a ska band. So, we sat down and came up with all the crazy names we could come up with. We actually landed on Lightning Killed My Parents, which we stuck with that name for about 3 years. And it was really easy because Fredonia is a music school, right? So, you grab any instrument, and anybody you want to grab is right there. And, our first show was at a place called the Harry Lemon, which was like kind of your upstairs, like dirty bar, dive bar type vibe. It was actually on Halloween. So we were all, I think I was dressed as Yoshi. It was very third wave, like goofy type stuff. So
songs about going to prom with your mom and just like the standard nonsensical kind of Real Big Fishy cover sort of shit. Or
yeah, I would say so. It was like our big song was I say big song because it's for some reason the one everybody liked. It was all about a dinosaur and all their friends died.
Poor guy.
Yeah.
That's kind of goth, really. That's fucking sad. And okay, so this is while you were in college though by this point, right?
Yep.
Okay. And then like did it instantly cause you to have a downhill trajectory as a human being of like, fuck it, the next thing you know you got a blue mohawk and you're doing heroin and dropping out of school? Or were you able to maintain being introduced to ska punk and still thriving?
So it's funny because I listened to the other four your other four interviews that you did. And I think kind of my journey is a little bit opposite, right? Like I have been going through school and, I played in ska bands all throughout college and I completed my master's degree. And like, now I'm just kind of tired, I guess. And all I want to do is just play music and hang out and go to shows. There wasn't a downhill trajectory after joining the ska band.
Yeah.
But yeah, we used to play tour on breaks. So we would go out for like 21 days at a time. And yeah, but then we'd, go to school and tour whenever we had time off.
This was in Lightning Killed My Parents.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. So at what point did you end up joining the Abruptors, which is how we're familiar with you?
Yeah, so around 2018, and it was right after I finished my master's. Okay. Mike actually asked if I wanted to join the band or play with the band, and I said, I just want to wrap up my master's before I commit to anything else. I just got to finish up this dissertation, and he didn't believe me. Like he thought that I was just making excuses to not join them. He's like, oh, I've heard that one before.
Yeah.
But yeah, once I finished it, once I, submitted the paper and got the approval and things like that, then I was like, all right, I'm ready to play. And he was like, wait, really?
And that was through University of Buffalo for the master's, and that was right after the bachelor's as well?
Yep. Master's was a little longer after. I think I took a little bit of a break working and stuff in there. But yeah.
So at that point, so like 2018, as you get your master's, you're joining this band. Did you had your kid already at that point?
No, she came. That was another moment where I had, my daughter, and Mike also thought that was the end of me playing with the Abruptors.
Right. But it seemed like it was like a pretty quick succession of it's like you go from I'm a grad student to I just joined this band that's playing out quite a bit, and now I got a kid on the way, sort of thing. So balancing all the shit at the exact same time.
Yeah, I mean, I always said when you have kids, your life doesn't end. You have to make sure that you continue to do the things you love, incorporate them into those things. So even when she was an infant, I don't even think she was a year old. We brought her on tour with Mustard Plug. We went to she was in Michigan with a little baby backpack with the noise canceling headphones. We got a little video of her backstage during their sound check, and so yeah, she falls asleep listening to ska punk, and I'm like, I don't know what child does this, but it must have some level of comfort because she was there from the beginning. So
that's awesome. So when you joined the Abruptors, they had already been established for a while at that point, yep. Right? So were they already signed to Asian Man, or?
Yeah, so they had already had the 7-inch out on Asian Man, and then there weren't talks of the next album yet. That actually came. We had dinner with Mike Park at Mike's house, and we were having a conversation with him, and he was like, hey, we'll have Rick Johnson record it. And that was kind of how that worked out. So
Rick Johnson, for the people listening, that's formerly played in Mustard Plug and has Cold War Studio in Grand Rapids, but also he's been touring with AJJ and Streetlight Manifesto and fuck, who else has he been out? Like, yeah, he's a fucking beast. But being on Asian Man in general, that's got to be pretty gnarly. Going from I don't know how big of your dinosaur hit was, but going from that to like as far as DIY cred goes, Mike Park and Asian Man Records, like that is a like that's as fucking legit as it possibly gets. And some of the people he's put stuff out for is like what Alkaline Trio and AJJ, who got fucking massive. Yeah, aforementioned Big D at the Kids Table, like Less Than Jake has done stuff on there. Lawrence Arms, so like some pretty fucking legit bands that have gone on to do some pretty ridiculous things. And then you're kind of the oddballs on that as well, because there aren't that many ska bands, especially like ska bands that aren't like you're not really like a punk band. You got punks in your band, but like it's not musically speaking. Like I figure like you could play a jazz festival and you'd be fine.
Yep. Yeah. And I think that people acknowledged that when he put us out too. We even acknowledged it because we were like, we're the first ska band that Mike's put out for a while. Mm-hmm. But it's just really exciting, and he's been really supportive all along.
So how the fuck did you guys pull that off to start with?
So Mike has a great story where when he played in a band called the B-Side Bastards, he would find Mike Park at like different shows around when he would come to Buffalo. And he would like, hey, will you put my band out on Asian Man Records? And he would make Mike Park take a picture with him while he was holding up his like B-Side Bastard CD and like just like really embarrassing stuff like that. And Mike acknowledges this is really embarrassing stuff. But he just kept sending him music. And, Mike and Mike connected because Dan P was doing his basement tours. And Mike had asked... Mike Park had asked Mike Dracy if Dan P could play in his basement. And, sometime after, I think, and I hope I'm not butchering the story too much, but Mike had sent Mike Park another demo, and he was like, hey, let's put out a 7-inch. So it was just like a constant connection over a series of years. And yeah, I think Mike Park liked what Mike sent him, and that was it.
So as soon as you got out of grad school, though, were you also getting like kind of like a big girl job at that point?
Mm-hmm.
So where did you start working, I guess, like using your actual higher education while also simultaneously joining like the most legit band you've ever... Usually people kind of pick one or the other, and you're like, I'm going to fucking tour and get a big girl job.
So I worked for a place called Doodlebugs. And they were a child care company, but I worked in administration there. And I had been there for, I think, 4 years at that point. So I had a bunch of paid time off that I never used because I'm that type of person who's just like always at work, never sick. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to use this time off and go tour when I have the chance.
And then who were you guys touring out with at that point?
I think at that point, that's actually when we were going out for a few days at a time with Mustard Plug quite often. The Slackers we were playing shows with. I'm trying to think what other tours we did. I honestly can't remember too much from that time period. We always tend to do like just a few days at a time, so it wasn't ever anything like too crazy. And that's kind of like the secret sauce for our band. We don't tend to commit to anything super long because we all have full-time jobs.
Right.
But yeah, it's always easier to do like the Wednesday through Saturday, and then you drive back on Sunday, and then you get to miss like the slow Monday, Tuesday shows anyway.
Nobody wants to play fucking Des Moines on a Tuesday. Like it's gonna suck, unless you're somebody massive. But so I mean, has that like kind of helped you be able to, I don't know, feel more exciting living like you're, on paper in a lot of ways, you're kind of living like a pretty fucking normal life, right? Like you're rocking mom life. You got, higher education. You're working like a grown up job now, which we'll dive into in a minute. But like from doing some fucking, drinking some beers with the boys at some fucking dingy rock and roll club and hearing some loud music, like, does that kind of give you some energy? We're like, oh, I'm so thankful to fucking be back at the office or something. Like,
I don't ever come back saying I'm thankful to be back at the office. Like, I love my job. I do. I love my job. But, I think the playing shows and recording and writing music and that's obviously you can't do it long term the way that we do it unless you really love it. So just something I'm really excited I get to be able to do to a really exciting level.
Yeah. So one thing that also kind of stands out, I'm talking to you compared to everybody we've had so far, is that we're talking to a bunch of dudes, right? So obviously the ska scene has historically certainly been more racially and gender wise and sexuality wise diverse than probably most other sort of alternative scenes. You think of like um, yeah, even like when you look at like the biggest bands that came out of the ska punk scene, what No Doubt, probably being the biggest of all, where it's like, okay, you got an Indian guy playing bass, you have African American guys with the horns. Gwen Stefani is obviously massive. Fishbone is obviously African American. Real Big Fish had, there are different races in the mix. So I guess like, was there some level of I don't know? So there's something kind of I don't know, maybe it's like more empowering or more connecting with you from the ska scene versus, let's say, the hardcore scene or something where there's no fucking women really that you see any there, compared to if you were to listen to like the Selector or something, you're like, or, No Doubt, where you're like, oh, there are other women that are actually not even just like contributing, but like fucking running the shit.
Mm-hmm. There's tons of talented women in the ska scene today. And I think it's really exciting because you can connect with them. I can connect with them on that level. I think personally for myself, I've never kind of stuck to like a gender norm, I guess you could say. Growing up, I was always, the kind of like the girl who was playing video games with the rest of the guys while the other girls were playing Barbies, or I don't know, even playing saxophone in high school. That was more predominantly male and things like that. So I wouldn't say that like I was drawn to anything specifically because there were more women. I just, I've lived my life by just doing things that I enjoy doing, regardless of whether or not it was considered normal for me to be doing them or not. But it's definitely an added bonus that there's tons of talented women in the ska scene today that, you can connect with. And yeah, they're really crushing it with everything they're doing.
Has Rude Girl Review reached out to you ever? Did you know
No,
those
I
folk
haven't
at
heard
all?
from them.
So, how do you feel that like coming from the scene like impacts you working within research? Like, is there any sort of like especially coming from such a fucking DIY, just I mean, again, Asian Man Records, like that's my shit. I've been such a big fan of the way that Mike Park runs things and has forever. I mean, to this day, it's ran out of his mom's garage. He's a 50-something-year-old dad. He's done quite successful, putting out Alkaline Trio and shit. That's no small feat. It's like I see the videos of him like having his 80-something-year-old Korean mother just like folding up 1,000 booklets for the new Lawrence, re-release of the Lawrence Arms album, sort of thing. So does any aspect of being in the band, or especially coming from that scene, impact you as a researcher and as a professional?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the hard work and getting stuff done mentality from the DIY scene uh, really resonates too in the work that I do on my day-to-day basis, right? Like, you have to be somebody who problem solves quickly. You have to be somebody who isn't afraid to like get your hands dirty and dig in and do what you need to do to kind of meet your goals. And I think that that's very, very true of the DIY scene, because you have to be your own social media presence. You have to be your own, you know, you have to market. You have to figure out what the merch is like. You have to pack. We're still packing mail on our own as well too. And so I think you just have to have that like hard work mentality. And it's true of, the career that I have and everything that I do, where, um, you know, it, you have to really be willing to put the work in, and you have to really be willing to work hard to get the results you're looking for.
So your current job, you've been at Tesla for several years now. What is it that you're specifically doing with there? Applying your methodology, your research methodology.
Yeah, so I work in data labeling, which supports kind of like the full self-driving and the Optimus robot that they're building. It's really exciting because when they reached out to me, recruiting reached out to me a bunch of times when I was working over in education, and I was like, I don't know anything about AI. I don't know anything about what you're doing over there. Like, I don't understand, why you want me to work there. And they were like, oh, you have the education background, you have the statistics background, you have the leadership background. We could teach you everything else. And so I didn't believe them. But I sent them, a resume. And throughout every stage of the interview process, I was like, I just want you to know I don't know anything about AI. And they were like, that's fine, we'll teach you. And so when I got into the role as a supervisor, is how I started, I immediately realized why they thought that I would be a good fit. So first and foremost, training a neural network is very similar to how you would teach a human brain. You just are building neural pathways over and over and over again. So similarly, when you're teaching like a child how to speak and you do it through repetition, that's how you're training a neural network, and building those pathways so that you're training the AI. So that was the first similarity. And the second similarity is that there's tons of training on the human side. So, you have to teach the people how to train the AI, and you have to do it effectively. So, a lot of what I do is reviewing data, reviewing information to determine, okay, are we being impactful in the way that we're trying to be impactful? And also, do our people understand at the end of the day what we're asking them to do, and how do we support them in doing their job better? And that's kind of where my research aspect comes into play, because a lot of with that degree was a lot of the educational psychology aspect of it, and I use that every single day, just teaching people how to do their job a little bit better every day.
Are you doing this sort of analysis? Are you using some sort of like coding software, like using R or SAS or Python or any of that sort of shit in the process?
So I'm really excited because I actually just started taking courses through Cornell to learn Python. And so I'm my fourth class in, but I've already started using it to do data analysis and kind of dig into everything on the back end. So really excited because, I don't know, it's just a new skill, and I love learning new skills.
So you're currently doing coursework through Cornell?
Yeah, they have like their online site, and I love it because you could just go at your own pace. And so, you guys know when you reached out, I was like, everything I do has to be after 8:30 p.m. because I have my daughter and she goes to bed at 8:30. So sometimes I'll be, up till 2 a.m. just finishing coursework, but not because I have to, but because I'm like really excited and so into it. Then I'm like, oh my God, I have to go to sleep because I have to go to work the next morning.
No, with what the education you're doing now, is that towards a separate degree, or is that just like kind of additional training or additional certifications, or what?
Yeah, this one's for Python programming certification, but you can turn it into a degree. So I'm hoping long term I can do that. It'll just be a matter of how tired I get before I get to that point.
Yeah.
So
If you're at the age now where your kid's not shitting all over itself and puking all the time, so maybe that gives you a little more free time, or?
yeah, it's hard because it's just me and her a lot of the time.
Yeah.
So, she always wants my attention. So I try to give it to her while she's conscious during the day.
That's totally understandable. No, but I think that's very cool though, especially balancing that out of, kind of rocking like I don't know, fucking, as I guess if you listen to the other ones, like childcare is not really played into the factor for a lot of this shit. So it's like if you're balancing being in a band that, like you guys gig out a fair amount, and then also if you have primary custody of your daughter, who's how old now?
She's 6.
Yeah, that's fucking.
I do have to say it does help that she does spend part-time with her dad. So he has her like on the weekends, which obviously works out for shows and things like that too.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, that's fucking funny that she was backstage as a 1-year-old hanging out, meeting mustard plug dudes, and the mustard plug guys too. They're probably all like Dave's probably like, I remember when my kids were cute, and now they're fucking disrespectful teenagers, and they're.
I do feel like Brandon said something very similar.
Yeah, totally. Oh, PJ, good fucking dudes. So then, how long would the process be through Cornell, and what would that degree be if you do pursue trying to build up upon this?
So the courses I'm currently taking, they'll end in September, and I started them back in actually right after we got back from tour in May, I believe. This one, there's like a longer certification. It's called Python 360, and I'm hoping to help translate it into kind of a machine learning degree. So yeah, I don't know. Sky's the limit, really.
So you're basically the sugar mama for your band because at this point you you have a real fucking job.
Honestly, though, so so we have a great setup where none of us take any of the money that we make from the shows we play or the merch. It all goes directly back into uh, the band and the touring and the hotels and things like that. But I do have to say, yes, I do front a lot of the money that, and then pay myself back as we make it back.
Well, that's legit. I mean, and it's good that you're at the spot where it's. I mean, I think that most of us, unless you're in some fucking massive band, it's like this is a way to get discount vacations, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it's like even if you're on, a well-established, label, you're generally not playing shows for three people in shitty basements. Like you're on, yeah, if you're playing with the Slackers, you're playing with Mustard Plug. Even if you're playing with fucking the Write-Ups, it's not going to be complete dog shit of shows, which is kind of cool. But it's I don't know, man. It's such a cool fucking opportunity to be able to break up this professional life we have, to be able to like sometimes you're drinking some craft brews in fucking Flint, Michigan, I mean, wherever. Like it's you're flying out to you guys are doing West Coast stuff. I know you've done that. You got some festivals coming up. Where's the Buffalo Festival? Is that this weekend?
That actually just happened. So it was this past Saturday.
How was that?
Oh, that was incredible. The place was packed. It was interesting because there were people from all over. Like we were talking to people from Chicago, from Michigan, from Boston, from Toronto. Like they all drove out, to see this festival that was Buffalo Ska Fest. So it was great.
Who else were you guys playing with on that?
Against All Authority was
Fuck
the
yes.
headliner. Yeah. And then there was Folly.
Oh fuck yes.
Yeah, so it was good. It was a good time. Stop the Presses played right before we did. So definitely a healthy mix of you got your hard punk and you've got more trad ska or more reggae.
I think what's like this with those bands specifically too, like Against All Authority came up in the last interview. We were talking about like they're fucking history nerds. Like if you like their lyrics, it's like here's a song about these 19th century Russian anarchist philosophers. It's just like and prior to internet being widespread, like that was I think how maybe adolescent me like learned like holy shit, there's this whole thing beyond Democrats. It's like pretty fucking cool. It's pretty rad. Folly too. Like I know. Did you hang out with those guys at all?
No, we didn't have a chance.
Okay. Alex and I got really fucking drunk on boxed wine at a Folly show in 2004. Maybe we were probably in high school.
Maybe 5. Yeah.
Maybe 5. But like their bass player, I do need to get him. Arbin. He's he's a master social worker. I know their singer is a public school teacher. A lot of these dudes are incredibly educated. That's a reoccurring thing that we see constantly, especially I think within a lot of the ska scene is like no secret. It's a lot of fucking nerds, and a lot of these fucking nerds are educated. And it's just cool seeing the balancing of two of these very seemingly different worlds to outsiders that people are able to kind of maintain working. I mean, Tesla is like a pretty fucking major company. That's like, one of the probably most well-known and most like kind of highly praised corporations that exist in the fucking world. So being able to balance that out with, I guess rocking the mom life and, fucking playing shows with Against All Authority is, I don't know. That's fucking cool. And it's all possible because at some point you went to go see Big D play a college,
Yep.
So another thing that Alex and I did before we went to go see you guys with the Slackers in Ithaca, which first off, that venue is the best sounding fucking venue I've ever heard for a venue of that size. Like it
really is.
But we were going through the history of looking. We watched all of you guys' music videos, the chronology,
Yep.
to see like who played bass this week.
Yeah, the never-ending rotation.
Right. But had a million. It's always Alex. It's always Mike. And then you've been around for quite some time at this point. But the videos were also, I was like, man, this is fucking DIY as fuck too. Like,
Yep. The first video, it was me and Mike, and he had the keys to the school he was working at, and we bought a bunch of props from Walmart, and I got a little like tripod that I put my Canon camera on, and we ran around to school for 2 hours hoping we didn't get kicked out, and that's what we came up with.
which video was that?
That was With My Luck.
Okay, yeah. It's kind of a heartbreaky sort of song, and but yeah, it was just so your budget for it was like the $20 you spent at Walmart sort of thing.
Yep.
That's rad. But now, of course, I got upgraded because then you had one with goats.
Yes. Yeah, that one was with Chris Grau, who flew out to Buffalo to do that with us. And that was definitely a different experience and a much better one.
Yeah, and Chris is, I guess for people listening in here, he's been producing a lot of stuff for like the Bad Time Records bands, and a lot of stuff with Fat. I know he works with Fat Mike quite often.
Mm-hmm.
And then he was also recently playing trumpet with NoFX for their final tour, which is pretty fucking dope. Because those shows, I've met him as a videographer as well, and then just seeing footage of him of like, oh, here's me playing for 20,000 people in fucking Berlin or whatever, which is pretty wild. So it's a cool guy to work with. I think probably is your latest video, is that Waiting Forever?
Yes.
Now, did he do that one as well?
He did, yeah. So he came out for a weekend, I want to say. It was not very long. It was like 3-4 days, and we shot 3 music videos all at the same time. And that was one of them.
So Chris being very much a California guy, and your band is very much fucking Rust Belt, like fucking blue collar Rust Belt, Great Lakes. Was he like, what the fuck am I doing in Buffalo sort of thing? Or
no, I think Chris Grau is probably one of the like most positive people you can have a conversation with. And so he's just like always excited to be everywhere. And yeah, he came out and we just had a really good time. And you said at the beginning, we're really quiet. We don't like to party, things like that. And he was like, what do you guys like to do in Buffalo? And I said, Chris, everything, because he wanted to capture us doing things we enjoyed. I was like, Chris, everything I'm going to tell you is going to be so boring, and I have no idea how you're going to make a music video out of it. He's like, hit me with it. Like, let's try me. And I said, I love going to this goat farm. And so that's how we ended up at the goat farm, because it's a place I really enjoy going.
Yeah. I mean, I think that Motley Crue shit's dead, though. Like, it doesn't have to be about cocaine and banging hookers all the time, dude. Like, sometimes you just need to play with some fucking goats and ride on a little, like, a little train made for 5-year-olds or whatever. And, and then or sometimes you just got to go rip it in, like, the abandoned factory with a guy breathing fire, which is pretty fucking cool. And Alex and I, we're from the Rust Belt. Like, I totally understand playing with fire in an abandoned factory. That's just commonplace. That was what we did. It's also cool, I think. Yeah, I didn't know a whole lot about Buffalo in general, but the more that I've encountered folk from those areas, I'm like, holy shit, you sound like we do.
Yeah, I remember like the first time we drove up to Michigan as a band, and we're all kind of like, oh, I wonder, what it's going to be like. And we get there and we're like, this is just another Buffalo.
Yeah. What would happen if Buffalo were 4 times larger? It would be Detroit. Like,
yes.
Remarkably similar. With the Mustard Plug dudes, it's like, I know you've done extensive shows with them, and I guess now you've played quite a few shows with the write-ups as well, where it's like, yeah, it's remarkably similar, but it's pretty fucking cool. But I think that I love the bands that do come from these just like kind of fucking rougher around the edges sort of towns, because it gives an edge to it. So even though you guys play, it's a pretty fucking smooth ska band, but like, I don't know, Alex is a hard fucking dude, like Mike's kind of a fucking hard, like, I wouldn't try to fight him. Like, they're nice guys or whatever. They're not going to start shit, but like, I bet they could finish it if they had to, it's like, I don't know.
I think you give them too much credit, and I think that they were okay with you saying that.
Fucking, so they're dorks too. All right, fine. Never mind. Oh, well, maybe you just seem tough because you're hanging out with K-Man of the 45s. Oh, actually, those guys aren't tough at all. They're fucking tiny, but they're scrappy. Yeah, and they're always drunk. That makes them seem a little tougher.
They're a party, though.
No, they Cayman the 45 is fucking definitely party harder
Oh
than we
yeah.
do. And actually, my boys kind of fucking party too, but maybe at a more sensible hour. So what's on the horizon for you guys now then?
Yeah. So our third record is in the process of being pressed as we speak. So Mike sent that off, just waiting for that to come back. I'm really trying to figure out what I'm going to do about art. That's the next step. I am like trying to find somebody to work with for that. But in terms of shows, we're playing another show with K-Man and the 45s in August, and then we've got a show back in Buffalo with, oh my gosh, the Suicide Machines, Hay Smith, Kill Lincoln, and Bad Operations. That's going to be super cool. And then I'm trying to think what else we've got. I know we're going out to California again in October to play a show, and that'll be a really exciting one. I don't know if it's been announced yet, though, so I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to be responsible for that. But yeah, just more shows and getting this record out, and hopefully playing a bunch more shows to promote it.
Just doing weekend warrior stuff, and then when do you expect the album to be out?
I don't know. So hopefully before the end of the year.
Right on. No, that's fucking legit. I don't know. It's cool seeing you be able to balance all this sort of shit, and I think especially throwing in the mom aspects. Moms don't get enough love, damn it.
So we have our last three questions that we ask everybody. The first of which is, what is a criminally underrated band to you? A band that should be a lot bigger than they are.
Yeah, so I cheated and I listened to the other four. So
you know the last three. Okay.
The very type A, like high anxiety in me had to know what we were talking about. So I do think that Dan P and the Bricks is actually very criminally underrated. I don't know, every song on the last record is like pure gold. And Dan P is just a great dude. So
for the people listening that don't know, Dan P is Dan Podhas from MU330, who are another phenomenal Asian man ska punk band. And then he also tours in Streetlight Manifesto, playing guitar some, and then does solo stuff as well. And I've seen him definitely play Living Room, and then he spent a decent amount of time living in a van with us when he was touring with Mustard Plug as well years ago. Have you heard his song Grand Rapids?
I feel like I have at some point, probably at a show or something.
Yeah, it's beautiful. I agree. It's seriously underrated, and he's just a great fucking guy.
Yeah, and he actually produced our last record too, so we were really excited to work with him, and I don't know, just a great guy.
I think it's almost less fun because you know what the fuck you're talking about. Usually people are like, oh shit, where do I even start with this? But I think cheating is punk rock, so that's fine. I'll accept it.
That's right. All right, question 2. Your Desert Island album or albums?
Yeah, so along with the amount of thought I put into these, I was like, I feel like everybody I listened to, they had like that record that really resonated with them and kind of like grew up with them. And I'm like, why can't I come up with that? And I think what I came up with is that when I was younger, I was growing up in the era where you didn't really ever listen to a full record from beginning and end. You like stole stuff from like Napster and LimeWire, and you made mixed CDs, and like I always had like 3 songs from this album and 2 songs from that one. So I really struggle to think about the Desert Island album.
Your album could be a horribly mislabeled just compilation of shit that you stole from Napster. Yeah, with a Sharpie on it from 1999.
Well, do you know what's really funny? And I'm going to share this and like probably regret it later. But growing up, I still really like emo music. And my sisters used to tease me. They would write on my CDs, Toni's emo mix. So if I went on a desert island, I would probably bring Toni's emo mix with me.
Now, which emo are we talking? Like you're like Taking Back Sunday, like Brand New sort of thing? Like
Taking Back Sunday. One of my favorite bands of all time is a band called the Spill Canvas.
Yeah.
And they're out of Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and they're smaller. They're not very well known. But they're big in Buffalo. They sell it every time they're here. So yeah, bands along that kind of vein.
What about, what did you do? What, so you're a little bit younger than us, right? How old are you?
32.
32.
I had to think
So
about it.
yeah. I don't know. Old enough where well, actually, I was gonna say old enough where I don't get ID'd. I'm like, you probably get ID'd all the fucking time, though. I don't. So yeah, so like the hot topics, like some Yellow Card or like what
Yep.
Coheed. You do what, My Chemical Romance, that sort of scene.
Yep. I still listen to My Chemical Romance almost every day in my car. Like,
Well, there we go. Just Helen as you're driving to work jams.
I'm Not Okay.
Oh.
Screaming that one at the top. We're like,
While going to work. Yeah, that checks out. Right on.
Makes sense.
Yeah, that's legit. What, Alkaline Trio though, or
so surprisingly, I didn't listen to Alkaline Trio.
even though now you have all the Asian Man record street cred?
Yeah, now I have that. I've had to, that I'm on the label, and I'm like, oh, what is this band?
Yeah, like this hugely influential band. Like all the bands that you listened to were super into Alkaline Trio then, for sure.
Yep.
Right on.
All right, final question. What is the last thing you listened to, musically, that is?
It was probably, honestly, Spotify makes the punk mix, and it's got all the bands we just talked about on, so it was probably one of them. Well, honestly, right now, Ari is upstairs listening to Super Kitties, so that's what's currently playing on my Spotify.
I don't know what that is because I'm a 38-year-old man with no children, but
Disney Channel. Actually, it was Green Day was the last thing that I listened to.
Which Green Day?
When I Come Around.
You're around Mike too much, aren't you? That's. I know
I like Green Day independent of Mike.
That's fair, but that man seems to. It's like, from what I understand, it's like. What do you? I remember asking. I think I was talking to your bass player. So like, what do you guys listen to like in the van? It's like, if it's Mike, it's always either two-tone ska or Green Day. Like those are the two things that exist. It's like the Specials or Green Day.
Yep.
Like that works.
And we drive Alex crazy too, because he's always like, we're the only band that drives around and doesn't listen to music, because if like we're driving and talking, the radio's off.
Oh.
And then we just drive for hours with the radio off. And it's super weird. I don't know why we do that.
Your drummer Alex, I mean, he definitely seems to be like, he's always wearing like a Menzinger shirt. It kind of comes with more kind of beardy, whatever, punk rock sort of shit. That's why we always head up, because he's like, whoa, you guys like drinking beer and listen to fucking bearded 40-year-old guys crying about fucking shitty relationships from 20 years ago too? Sick.
Let's hang out.
Let's fucking hang out.
Alex is always like off at a show just by himself, drinking beer and hanging out, and just, that's Alex. That's what he does.
Good fucking dude. Right on. Any sort of closing note sort of stuff you wanna cover?
I don't think I have anything.
Sick. Well, I think we're in good shape then, so we can kill this. But thank you for spending some time.
Thank you for being here.
Thank you guys. I enjoyed it and appreciate you reaching out.
No, and honestly, it's just been stoked to have like earlier today doing an interview. I was like it's the same fucking story every single time that we've had, and yours is a bit different, which is fucking nice. That it's not like just like I was a drunk and shithead punk. I went to a VFW hall. I'm like fucking, I could do this.
All of our previous,
yeah. They're like, I went on tour for 20 years, and then finally I hit 30. I'm like, fuck it, I guess I'll go to school. And like it's like, oh, cool. You're another 38-year-old white man that's fucking done this exact same situation as me and Alex.
It's so funny. See, I listened to him and I was like, oh man, I'm not cool enough for this.
You know, Mike, you got Mike Park on speed dial. That's pretty fucking cool.
That's true.
I've met him several times. He doesn't know who I am
for this.
Yeah. So there we go. Yeah, you know Vic Ruggiero. He respects you. That's pretty fucking rad. You've played on his keyboard.
I have.
I know. I was there at least one of the times. I was just fucking rad.
And that's a wrap for this episode of Punk Rock Academic. We hope you're as inspired as we are by the incredible stories from the punk rockers revolutionizing higher education. If you enjoyed today's show, please be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with your fellow rebels. Stay tuned for more tales of academic anarchy and keep the DIY spirit alive. Until next time, keep rocking and never stop learning.